Yay,
Hey,
we're live.
that works. Is it working? Is it
I
working?
mean, I see it being live.
I see it being live, but I don't see it
Oh,
I
live.
think it takes a while to load up.
something. Oh, what's
But
happening?
when you rewatch it, you'll be able to see it. I see it being live.
Okay. I see it being live, but I don't see it. Ooh, okay.
You gotta mute. I heard my voice and I
Yeah, that was me. That was
part
my
of me dead.
Okay. Cool. Welcome to the King of Scars live show. One day, there will not be technical difficulties and it'll just start smoothly.
Don't lie to them. There will always be technical difficulties.
Yeah, those are bold words.
Yeah, it's part of our brand at this point. So, I guess I'm not Cindy. I didn't prepare a bunch of questions because I am not as good of a host as she is. But I feel like we should just start out by saying our general thoughts and feelings leaving King of Scars. And I'm going to start with you, Cindy, because I know Kat has choice words.
Okay. I feel like I am the only person who did not mind King of Scars. And I feel like okay, so oh God, I made it this far. I personally rated this book 4 stars. And I think maybe I just read it at a good time because I read it during my work trip when my real life was so hectic. So I was able to kind of just enjoy this book for the escapism. And maybe that's why I wasn't able to view it as critically. And I also like extremely low expectations. I think before I had recently-ish read the Grisha trilogy, so I was kind of expecting the same thing because the main characters that appear here, I did not give a shit about in the Grisha trilogy. So yeah, I just had super low expectations, and then I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't bad like I thought it would be. I liked the new relationship developments of Nikolai and Zoya, and I finally gave a shit about them. And I liked the new relationship with Nina and someone else. And I also thought that Nina's story arc was done better here than in Six of Crows. But overall, I think King of Scars is like in the middle between Grisha trilogy and Six of Crows. It's not like awful like the trilogy, but it's not like amazing like Six of Crows. And yeah, so I'm pretty much chill with it. I know that people have strong opinions. Some of them are angry opinions, especially with the ending, but I'm chaotic neutral. So I'm just like, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, before we jump into you, Kat, I feel like this needs to be said. This live stream is just gonna have spoilers. I feel like it's just easier that way for us. If you haven't read the book, there's no non-spoiler section. I know we did that on Cindy's. We didn't do it on Kat's, but we're not doing it on mine. So just we're gonna spoil. You can spoil in the comments. Kat can spoil. Cindy can spoil. I sure as heck will spoil. That's the tea. That's the way it's gonna be.
I feel like you can't really talk about the book without spoiling it.
That's the thing. That's really how it is. So, Kat, now you can go.
I can spoil? Okay, great. The Darkling's back and I'm pissed. But other than that, like, it was okay. I mean, I'm with Cindy. I think that it was pretty in the middle. I haven't actually rated it yet, so I don't know where it exactly lines up with my thoughts on the other books, but there were some things about the book that I thought were good, really good even. And then obviously there were some things about it that I want to yell about loudly, but we can wait on that. Jordan, how did you feel about the book?
See, I am not as mad as you. I can already tell, but I'm also not as like fine with it as Cindy. Here's the thing. I went in low expectations. Low expectations. Like, cause I was like, I hadn't really heard much because I had isolated myself. I was in Asia. I was living my best life on the beach. So I was just like not checking. I was not listening to the crowd. But I did know that there was like a lot of people who were disappointed by the book. So I just like kept my expectations low, and then I started reading it and I was like, this is fine. This is good. This has good things going for it. And so like my expectations they started low and they just went ooh, and then like I reached the midpoint and they just crumbled. All of my hopes and dreams just died. It just got really bad. And so like, and it wasn't like after finishing the book, it wasn't like the worst thing I've ever read. It wasn't the Grisha trilogy, you know, but it wasn't good. It like, and it wasn't horrible, but yeah, I was disappointed. I was disappointed is the fact of the matter.
That sounds like a whole roller coaster that you went through. Like super low, then shot up, and then it went back down again.
It was, yeah, I was all over the place. The thing is, like, I think
just like the Darkling's mortality.
Yeah.
It's one thing, then it's another thing, and then it's back again.
Yeah, I feel like we'll get to the Darkling later, because I feel like that's a whole can of worms that we can dive right into. But I do want to talk about the two perspectives separately, because that's the thing. They just don't have anything to do with each other besides being in the same book.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that was actually my main critique for the book, was that even though I enjoyed reading, you know, Nikolai's story arc and reading Nina's story arc, I felt like they were two different stories that just happened to be mashed in the same book with no connection. I mean, I assume there will be more of a connection in the sequel, but like for just viewing King of Scars alone, there's just no relation to it. And it was weird. It kind of felt like Leigh Bardugo had an idea for how Nikolai's story continues, but it wasn't enough to be an entire book. So then she added Nina on top of it, or like vice versa. But yeah, there could have been like a better cohesion between the two.
That's the thing. That is exactly what it felt like. And here, okay, I already like before the live stream started yelling at Kat about this, but I'm just gonna like say it now. So here's the thing. There are a lot of like, you know, a lot of books or whatever where it's inspired by something else, but I feel, and like it's just takes the worst parts of the inspiration from that thing rather than like being smart about being inspired by something and like taking the things that really make it good. It's just like inspired by the surface level things. But I feel like Leigh Bardugo did that to her own books. She was like, well, there was clearly some issues with the Grisha trilogy, so I'm just gonna like be inspired by the wrong things that made Six of Crows good. Then, you know, so she was like, we're gonna do King of Scars, using some of the, you know, characters from the two series, but instead of like being inspired by all the things that made Six of Crows actually good, she was like, we'll make it third person, we'll make it more than one perspective, like we'll do all these surface level things that make it seem more like Six of Crows rather than like the intricate character development and the conflict and like the fact that Six of Crows, like it's multiple POV, but that works really well because all of those POVs are part of the same story. So it's just giving new perspectives and new like insight into the events that are going on. So unlike that, this is just a disjointed mess of two different stories happening at the same time that don't heighten each other, that don't give new insights and perspectives on the same events. It's just like two things that have nothing to do with each other going on at once.
Yeah, I totally agree. The multiple perspectives really worked for Six of Crows because all the characters were actively like working together for a heist, and you could see how all their efforts like culminated towards the end. And they had like relationships that were building on each other, and you could see the perspectives from each like relationship. And King of Scars is like totally disjointed where I think it really would have been a much stronger book if there had been more of a connection, or maybe like you could see at the end why the two stories like connect. Like maybe you could start off separately and then at the end you could see those two storylines merge. But we didn't really see that except for like, I remember towards the end, Nina just happened to mention that like some assassin or whatever was sent out to kill Nikolai. And that was like the only connection. And then you see what happened to Isaac.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's very like the connections, you can tell she was like, probably an editor was like, hey, you should probably like try to make this a little bit more. And she was like, well, it's a little late for that, but I guess I'll sprinkle something in. Like it was just very weak, you know, the connections between them. And that's the thing, it doesn't even give hope for the next book to be connected because she's like, nah, I'm a stay in Fjerda. And it's like, okay, Nikolai's sure as heck staying in Ravka, so I don't know how this has anything to do with each other.
Yeah, I felt like at the end, like all of a sudden Nina just went on this whole journey. And then she's like, oh yeah, some dude is about to kill Nikolai. And then you see the whole thing happen with Isaac.
Isaac.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, the fact that she like decides to stay in Sherda after everything that happens even like further diverges the storylines. I can't foresee how they're going to come together because obviously Nikolai is like aware of the drug situation, but nothing that his story is doing has anything to do with that, or so it seems. Maybe in the end, the drugs will be the cure to his situation. Who knows? Anyway, but like, there's nothing that connects them at all. So it was very stilted. That's the word.
Yep. So
They actually end up together.
what?
I said they actually end up together.
Oh my god, could you imagine? I would be so mad. I would rage.
The Darkling is the priest that you know, gets them married.
He's a matchmaker.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So because this book is two separate books in a book, so I feel like we should split this up and we should talk about one storyline first and then the other storyline after, and just not jump around because they're different and they have nothing to do with each other. So what do we want to start with, ladies? Maybe
we can start with Nikolai since he's supposedly the central character of the book.
Supposedly. Sure, let's do that.
Mm-hmm. Like I said before, I didn't really care for Nikolai in the Grisha trilogy, but I enjoyed reading him. Again, I'm just very like nonchalant with this whole book. Like I didn't really have any strong feelings either way. I do think that out of the three perspectives that we got, Nikolai probably had the weakest story arc, because his whole story is about him battling with the demon inside of his body, but that demon is also like a representation of his inner demons as well. And so it just felt like a very on the nose kind of character arc for him. And so I was personally more interested in reading about Zoya and Nina. So I can understand like people being disappointed by King of Scars because it felt like the titular character didn't really have a spotlight compared to Zoya and Nina taking that away.
Yeah. And I think I completely agree. And I think honestly, Zoya, I didn't find her that interesting either. Like I was interested in her for a bit and then I kind of lost interest and then I kind of got interested at the end again. But it was like, she didn't capture my attention that much. Like, and that was kind of the problem that I had with most of the book. My two favorite characters were Nina and Isaac. I thought Isaac, like his chapters were some of my favorites.
Oh, that's interesting because I didn't really care for Isaac. When he got stabbed, I was like, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really care when he died so much, but there was something very wholesome and sweet about his chapters and like him being thrust into a position that he didn't ask for, he wasn't ready for, and being thrust, and like I felt that he was what Alina could have been, where he was like actually just a good guy thrust into a position of power with a lot riding on him, and he just had good morals, he was just trying to do what was best. He felt things deeply. He was like, he had a sense of duty. I was like, you are a stand-up guy, sir. You do your best.
That's why he died. Natural selection. That's the moral of the story. You're wholesome. You're out of this book. But I actually did like, okay, sorry, I know we're jumping all over the place, but I think the reason why I liked reading about Isaac, I don't know, I thought like him falling for that one princess was cute before she like shanked him.
Exactly.
But I feel like I didn't really.
With him
Sorry,
falling.
what?
I thought it was so random, him falling for her. I was like, there must be something else going on here because it was so quick. Okay, sorry. I liked reading about him. I agree with Jordan. The only thing I felt when he died was anger because I want more from his character that we're never going to get now unless he comes back, because clearly that's possible in this book. But anyway, but like, I feel like if he was going to be such a, I feel like his character wasn't used to the fullest extent that it could have been, because he wasn't really a big central point in the story. He was kind of like an afterthought, it seemed, because his perspective started so late, and then also, you know, he like died at the end, so there's that too.
Yeah.
So I liked him, but like I wish we could have seen more from him about
Yeah.
him. Wish he lived. So
I mean, I was fine reading him too, but I think I didn't have like a particularly strong attachment to him because he still read as a very surface level character. Like to me, he kind of read like the first Six of Crows book with Wylan, where you didn't really know him as deeply, and he didn't have as much depth for me to like be affected or be shocked by his death that much. Like it kind of, to me, when he got stabbed and died, it kind of made sense that he was just thrown there for the drama.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I think if he had been introduced earlier and we had formed that connection, like while he was, you know, I think I saw one of the comments that he would have been an interesting, like, outside perspective on Nikolai in like the first half of the book. And I agree. Like, if we had gotten to know him beforehand, I think his death would have been much more impactful. And that's the thing. I wasn't really impacted by his death at all. I was like, oh, like, you know, kind of sad that that was it for him. But yeah, like, I enjoyed his chapters while I was reading them. And that might be because I hated Nikolai and Zoya in the second half when they're teleported to some strange alternate dimension. So it was
Yeah, okay, so I really enjoyed seeing like the relationship between Nikolai and Zoya. That was kind of like a surprise to me because from what I remember, from what I blocked out in the Grisha trilogy, I don't think they really had a relationship or even a friendship at all in the trilogy. And then all of a sudden you randomly see it in King of Scars. But I was like, I'm shipper trash, so I'm down. But the second half, when they're like sucked into this other dimension and they have to like fight off these gods or go through some trials that are actually an excuse to show their background stories, that was like kind of random and out of nowhere and just like a very convenient way to show their background stories instead of just interspersing it throughout the whole book, which is what Six of Crows did pretty well because you got to learn about the characters as you read on. Whereas like with Nikolai and Zoya, it kind of felt like there were just entire scenes where like they just jump you into the background story and you get it all at once.
Exactly. I really liked reading about Zoya because I finally feel like we got a chance to see her character outside of Alina's judgmental gaze. Because in the Grisha trilogy, Zoya was purely like that mean girl character, and she didn't really have much more going on because we were seeing through Alina, and she never told Alina why she decided to stand with her or whatever. And I feel like now we finally get to see what was going on. I mean, it was told in a very info dumpy way, absolutely, but like I liked that she got a lot more depth. And I also really liked how whenever somebody would bring up Alina and then someone would start to like shit talk her, Zoya would be like, she would start to get heated. And I was like, this is the girl supporting girl shit that I like live for.
Right?
Zoya's like, hey, listen, Alina may be a basic bitch, but she's our basic bitch, okay?
I know. See, that I really liked. And I completely agree with you, Kat. Like, I really like that we got that new perspective. Because, like, if you remember when we were talking about the Grisha trilogy, I was like, I feel like Zoya was a missed opportunity. Like, she and Alina could have had much more of a relationship and arc, but they didn't. Because, like, I hate the mean girl character trope. It's dumb and dumb and dumb. So I was happy to see that in the end they, you know, had some sort of development and like a thing, but it was not enough. And so I'm glad we got that in this book. But at the same time, I don't know, like in the end, at the beginning, I was interested, I think, a little bit more than like when they finally like in the second half when they got transported, I kind of lost interest again. I was like, you're like, I don't know, there's something about the kind of gimmicky like, oh, but they're, you know, unlock your inner powers. Like, okay. I just don't understand why it was her. I don't understand like this, yeah, like the magic in this completely. Every time I'm like, wow, Leigh Bardugo can expand on the world building and the magic system because the magic system is just so very, very loose and like you know, that's the thing. That's the thing with magic system. I'm a stickler for world building. I love a good like structured magic system that we understand what the limitations are, so we understand how like when they're kind of stretched, it feels like it's like, ooh, wow, look at your ingenuity. Like you're staying within the bounds of what we've set up, but like, you know, at the same time, you're like, you know, pushing the edges of that in interesting ways. Like, for example, I know you haven't seen a cat. I don't know if you have, Cindy, but like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's like people that can, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At a girl. But like, so basically, there's like waterbenders, airbenders, firebenders, earthbenders. But then they stretch the limitations of that in interesting ways. For example, Katara, who's one of the waterbenders, she finds out that you're able to do blood bending because there's so much blood or so much water in your blood. So she can basically control people like puppets. Then, you know, there's like, but they explore that with different morals and like morality and like the, you know, so they stretch it and then they explore it and it's interesting, whereas Leigh Bardugo just has this hazy sort of magic system, and then whenever she wants she's like, yeah, no, you can do this now, and it's like, okay,
You're an amplifier now.
yeah, it's just like, what is it though? But what can you just what?
I think what you need to accept is that Leigh Bardugo is not the greatest world builder because her world building and magic system has always been lacking. Like even with Six of Crows, there's like no world building at all. I think her main strength is really with character development and relationship development. But even then, that's kind of like, it seems circumstantial sometimes. I feel like with her, as much as I love Six of Crows, I always view her as like a hit or miss for me. Like either I'll really fucking love it when she gets it right with Six of Crows, or I'll just be like, meh, like the Grisha trilogy.
Yeah.
I was particularly angry about the magic because, okay, first of all, I don't read fantasy like a ton, so I need a lot of information because I'm dumb and I can't follow things very well. So I'm angry because we've had the Order of the Grisha at the beginning of the book. Every single book is like that little corporeal key, ethereal key, whatever, like chart thing. And now that doesn't matter at all because now Zoya can do water and fire and air. And then also she had to put the amplifier from the dragon scales on herself, which is like a Taylor thing, which is a corporeal key thing. So like the little structure that we did have for so long is now gone, which makes me upset because now I'm even more confused than I was before, which, yeah. Also, she's a dragon now, which I don't get, but whatever.
Do you think Leigh Bardugo like makes the shit up as she goes along, or do you think she actually plans it out beforehand and it's very convoluted?
She can't, I don't understand. Okay, if she has been planning it ahead the whole time, I don't understand why she shoved like the structure and like the different ranks in our faces so much in like Grisha, because like I feel like in the trilogy that's like all we heard about because they were so set in their ways, and like that was such a big part of their whole thing was like, I sit over here with these people and I'm this person, and like that's, and now it just she has to be making it up as she goes, which just disappoints me because I thought she was better than that, but like okay, yeah.
No, she is like 100% making it up as she goes. Because that's the thing too, like, I was a little mad, but I was for Parem. You know, I thought that was like an interesting stretch, and they explored that of like what the Grisha, you know, like, and it was a balanced kind of stretch because it was like you can have all these powers, but then you're hopelessly addicted and die. So, you know, it was like an interesting stretch of Grisha power. That interests me. That's cool. I like that. It was a little like, I still want to know more about the actual bounds of what Grisha can do and what, you know, but like that seemed like a good kind of stretch of that. Whereas this is just like, haha, what you thought you knew is a lie. And also you can be as powerful as you want without any limitations. And it's like, stop.
Surprise, bitch.
Yeah.
That's basically how she does it. I want to backtrack a little bit because earlier you were talking about Zoya and the mean girl trope. And I definitely agree with you two about how Zoya's character was written much better here because she finally has like a little bit more depth compared to the Grisha trilogy. So I enjoyed reading learning more about her character because we didn't get to learn that much. But do you guys think that she kind of feels like a different character entirely though? Because from what I remember in the Grisha trilogy, she seemed very juvenile and immature. And then in King of Scars, all of a sudden she seems like a very cold-hardened, I don't know, just like a more mature character. And it feels like there's a disconnect. And to me, it kind of felt like Leigh Bardugo was trying to salvage what had been already set up in Grisha trilogy by rewriting like a few things.
I agree and disagree, like a little bit of both. I agree that her character does feel quite different from the Grisha trilogy, but it's also been several years since the Grisha trilogy, and in the, like, I forget, Crooked Kingdom? It was Crooked Kingdom that we saw her, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she seemed more like the Zoya in King of Scars in Crooked Kingdom than, you know, like what we knew in the Grisha trilogy. So I think it's just like, I kind of believe her growth. Like, I believe that once you're thrust into that position of leadership, you would kind of need to grow out of those juvenile things. But like, she still feels like the kind of cold, you know, kind of one-liner-y kind of gal that, like, I didn't think it was different enough to be like too jarring. And I'm glad that we did get the backstory and the perspective and like all of that we have in this. Because I did think it made her character more interesting. So I agree that it was quite different, but I think that you could explain it away, kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree with
I do think a common explanation is that, you know, it's been several years and she went through a war. But I guess like part of me wonders if Leigh Bardugo had to rewrite the Grisha trilogy, I do feel like she would have written Zoya a lot differently, where she wouldn't really have been as juvenile and immature. But I don't know. Maybe I can just chalk it up as Alina being like a very shitty narrator.
Maybe both.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something, Kat?
Oh, I also did what Jordan did, and I kind of like put it all with the fact that it had been a few years or whatever. And I mean, there were a few things at the beginning like that, and like maybe how Zoya interacted with Nikolai, because like you said, they didn't really have much of a relationship in the Grisha trilogy, like at all. I kind of just chalked it all up to the fact that there was a time jump. That being said, I think it would have been cool to have like a flashback or like something to a earlier time when she was like in that transition period, so that we could see her growth rather than just be kind of like told that she grew so much or like shown the later version, rather than like, because it was very jarring because she's a totally different person, I think. And I think you're right, if Leigh Bardugo rewrote the original trilogy, I think that Zoya would have been a totally different character.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to read out loud a comment by Violets and Bones in the live chat. She said, she was referring to Avatar and the parallels to the Grisha. Everything changed when the Darkling attacked. Only the Zoya, master of all Grisha schools, could stop him. But when the world needed her most, she turned into a dragon.
Basically.
Good one.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. So here's the thing also that I wanted to ask you guys. Because like Six of Crows, all of the different perspectives felt like they were serving a purpose, and that they were like, not only were they interesting, but they felt like relevant. Because like, you know, it's a heist, so you need all the different perspectives because they're all doing different things. And then there's also so much like character development and drama and conflict between those characters, between them and their past, like all that stuff. Like there was a lot going on, which was like, you know, beautiful. Stars. Listen, I don't know that we needed Zoya and Nikolai. I don't know that we needed the both of them. But
we need it for the shipping.
Listen, thought.
But yeah.
Okay. Based on what we got, I think we needed both of them because it's a story about Nikolai. So like, obviously he had to be there, but his perspective lacked. So then Zoya kind of picked up the slack. If Nikolai's perspective had been better, you're right. We didn't need both. So like,
yes, I totally agree. I think that adding on to that, like, I feel like Zoya was put in because Nikolai's story is not strong enough to stand on its own, but just Nikolai and Zoya are not strong enough to stand on their own either. And so she also put in Nina so that there's one long book.
You don't see an issue with that? Because I'm seeing a little bit of an issue with that.
I do see an issue with that. And I think that it kind of felt like after she wrote the Grisha trilogy and Six of Crows, she knew in her head what would happen to the characters afterward and how they would live their lives afterward. And then she decided to just make it canon, but it lacks like the cohesion of tying those storylines together to make it like a formidable book.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. Honestly, I agree with you. Nikolai's perspective alone wouldn't have done it. I almost think Zoya's perspective alone could have done it. Like, you know, I know it's a book about King of Scars, but honestly, her perspective seemed much more valuable than his perspective in like the majority of things, because you could capture a lot of like his internal struggles externally because it was so on the nose, as you put it. Like, it's literally him battling a demon that is, you know, a personification of his inner demons. Like, you could do that externally and still have like it makes sense, because it's so overt. But
yeah, it's so overt. Like, there's no nuance that it would have been easily explained by like a third person's perspective. But I actually really like your idea of just keeping it as Zoya and not having Nikolai, even though he's like the titular character and everything, because one thing that I really liked about King of Scars was this theme of women's autonomy over their bodies because of Nina's personal journey where she's trying to save women from being raped or forced into pregnancies. And Zoya's background story revealed how, you know, her mother basically made her a child bride and she had to give up her body. And so it was kind of interesting to see this theme about women and their bodies and them trying to claim their bodies in a book that is supposed to be about a male character. And I do wonder if it would have been more compelling if there was more like time spent on these two female characters who are kind of like on their own journeys following that theme, but obviously have it like connected together. So yeah, I'm kind of like down for that if we just took out Nikolai as the perspective.
Okay, so now that you're saying that, because then we have the whole Isaac thing. And so like, what if, now I'm just like rewriting the book, but like, what if instead, because like there's like the whole like Princess Airy thing, you know, what if it was like one of them was from her perspective? Because then we could also have a perspective on the Shu side of thing, which like we still don't know anything about the Shu really. Like, who are the Shu? We know you Chinese-ish, but when and who and what and where and why, you know, like, what if it was just like, it was Zoya and Nina and either like the assassin or the actual Princess Airy. But Princess Airy seems kind of like dumb and I don't like her. So the assassin chick, you know?
Yeah, okay, dude, honestly, I love this idea. Basically, get rid of all the male perspectives and make it all women perspectives. And it would be such a more compelling story. Because I do think the strengths of King of Scars relies more heavily on the female characters more so than the male characters. That, at least that's what I was more interested in. So I'm liking this idea. Instead of King of Scars, it's called Queen of Waffles.
Yeah. Perfect. And because like also if it was Princess Airy's assassin chick, whose name I always forget, then there's like the whole like internal struggle of like, ooh, should I kill this guy like that I'm starting to love and like, but like just do it to save my brother, and I'd have to like the whole like, if I kill him then I have to kill myself. Should I do it like duty over, you know, duty and nation over love? And like, you know, that is interesting. That is levels of complexity.
I would read that.
I really liked it because it was definitely hinted towards the end where, you know, like when she killed him, you could tell that she was really kind of like internally destroyed by it. She wasn't like just some cold, heartless assassin, but she was dealing with a lot of internal conflicts. But we didn't really get to see that. So yeah, it would have been great if it was just those three perspectives. I like this rewrite.
We should just rewrite this book. You're welcome, Hugo. But yeah, but speaking of, you know, these people and their things, we really kind of need to, unfortunately, talk about the whole plot thing where they like go to that alternate dimension and do those things.
I feel like I mostly forgot about it already because it was just like a clusterfuck of like weird random shit that was just for the sake of sharing background stories in an info dump. So you guys will have to refresh my memory about that.
I read it like a half an hour ago, and it just feels like a fever dream, honestly.
Like, it was a fever dream.
If we can back up to the magic system for a second, I'm having a hard time believing that in the fold, which didn't, there's no darkness there anymore, but there's just this lake or something. Like that whole situation, the fact that the gods inside it can like stretch their little fingers, their like magic fingers out into Ravka and like do miracles or whatever, that doesn't make any sense to me either. But putting that aside, what happens in there with like the battle and stuff, like I don't even, Jordan, take it away, because I don't even know. Like I'm still confused.
It kind of felt like Leigh Bardugo was like, oh shit, I gotta wrap up this story. So let me just toss a bunch of shit at them.
Yeah, okay, so there's so many, I have so many things. I have so many things about this. So, first off, yeah, you are right about the magic system. We talked about this. I'm not thrilled at the magic system in this book or any of the others, but especially this one. I feel like it was especially bad because like what little rules we had were broken. And also, yeah, I feel like the interesting part about this book was the whole way that Leigh Bardugo repurposed like you know, the kind of Catholic, like, or not even Catholic, really, just Christian, like, idea of saints, and then repurposing that to, like, include the fantasy elements of the story, and having, like, you know, that be a really interesting element that actually plays a part in the story, because I feel like a lot of fantasies go half-hearted on the whole religion bit. Like, they'll create religions, and then it'll just kind of, like, be, like, a little flavoring, you know? It's, like, it's used as, like, spice for the story, like for the world, but it's not really taken advantage of in the actual plot and story, which actually that was like one of my favorite parts of the Grisha trilogy, was that it was like included this whole idea of saints and like repurposing that in a creative way to fit the whole like magic system. I thought that was really interesting. And then in this, it was just like, oh yeah, no, the Grisha were the saints, like we said earlier, but also like it was before there was like rules, and then so then they don't have rules, and they will never have rules, and they are sitting in like purgatory and can like do magic, and like also what is small science, and they can teach it to people, and it's like it was like what are you doing and why, you know?
I'm in confusion.
Confusion. And then like, and yeah, also it was just dumb. There were so many dumb things, and I just, none of it, because that's the thing. One of my issues with the Grisha trilogy was how like fantasy tropes it all was. It was all like good versus evil, like, you know, big kind of fantasy themes and fantasy tropes. And that's what I liked about the Six of Crows duology, was that it kind of subverted a lot of those by focusing on like, it was almost low fantasy. And I find that recently I've enjoyed low fantasies much more than the kind of high fantasies that I've been reading, because it uses fantasy in interesting ways and makes it part of the story, but that's not the focus, is on the like big ol' good versus evil themes and like all this stuff. Whereas this book had like the Nina perspective, which was a lot more low fantasy, and then I had the Nikolai perspective, which was also low fantasy at the beginning, and then it was just like, bam! High fantasy moment. Now they're in an alternate universe. Like it just felt very like far from what? Inconsistent. Yeah, exactly. And it just, yeah, felt out of place. Not only with this book, but also it was even more high fantasy than the original Grisha trilogy. So it was extra disjointed. I'm just gonna stop. I need someone to just like.
No, I think you make a good point, and I feel like Leigh Bardugo probably doesn't exactly know where she wants to fall in, whether it's high fantasy or low fantasy. And so when she combines like all these different things, it feels kind of half-assed, where you're like, wait, what are we doing? So yeah, Kat, do you have any thoughts?
Besides my general confusion, I just think that I feel the same way. When I read that they went into the alternate universe, I had to go back and read it again because I initially didn't understand that they had left like their world, because I was like, can that happen here? I didn't realize that we were like on that level. And then kind of once we're in there and we're talking about the amplifiers and like how the gods are amplifiers because they gave a piece of themselves to the things that they killed, or I don't know.
I still don't understand that, to be honest.
I literally, like, I can't even explain it because I don't understand it, and I read it like twice, so I just gave up. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. It also, it stretches like what could be an amplifier. I'm hoping, honestly, at this point, with all this bull that's going on, I hope that like Nina or someone comes in and kills the Darkling and uses the Darkling's bones as an amplifier or something like that, which like I feel like could happen. Maybe that
is an amplifier.
Yo, that'd be metal as fuck.
Yeah.
Maybe
Alina should come back and just be like, yo, this didn't happen the first time, but you mine now, biatch.
You know, I would rather have the Darkling come back than Alina come back. Like, I would rather have any other character from the Grisha trilogy come back than Alina. And maybe that's why I wasn't as pissed off about the ending. But to your point, maybe the real amplifiers were the friends we made along the way. Maybe that was the real world building all along. Going a little bit, backtracking a little bit, I saw a question in the live chat from Andy O'Connor who says, do you feel that the girl power and feminist moments were overall at the expense of men? If so, how do you feel about this? And Ishika actually answered in a way that I agree with. Ishika said, the only real male character it came at the expense of is Nikolai. And honestly, I think it was less his character arc came at the expense of feminism, and more it was not developed as much. Like, I don't think girl power or feminism ever really comes at the expense of men, like a lot of people might believe. But I do think that it maybe just comes at expense because King of Scars is supposedly about Nikolai, but a lot of the appeal is more in the girl power themes of the book.
I agree mostly with that. I think honestly, the exception for me might be Nina. Weirdly, I think that in like, what was the guy's name that she was traveling with?
Adric,
something like that. I think, I don't know. For her storyline, I felt like I had some issues with Nina's storyline in general, but I just felt like it was her ignoring, like she wasn't working with anyone except for Han. I don't know how to pronounce her name. But yeah, she wasn't really working with anyone. She was kind of like, just like, I'm my own person. I went to Ketterdam. I know how to be the assassin. Like, she kind of acted above everyone else, including Adric, who was supposed to be like her teammate and her leader. But I think that could be said for the girl that was working with her too. It was just like, that was the only time where I felt like it was like, hurrah, over like, you know, for me, what I enjoy about feminism and what I enjoy about girl power is girls stepping up to the plate and working with the men in like the story, and having that be kind of like an equal. Like, I would hate, for example, if the roles were reversed and it was all like guys and it was all like guy power, and then like he was just basically like, so like if there was a girl leader and he was just acting against everything that she said and like ignoring her like actual leader thing, you know, all the whatever commands that she was saying. If it was a guy that was doing that, I'd be pissed too. And so that's why, like, when Nina was basically ignoring everything Adric was doing, as well as like working against him at times, I was like, well, that's just kind of a crappy thing to do. Like, he's your leader and you should be listening to him, or at least discussing with him your plans, like all of that. So that's the only time where I felt like it was at the expense of something, was like her girl power moments almost felt like a little bit like it was undermining him.
I think that's a good point that I hadn't really considered before. I think maybe why I didn't have as much of an issue with it is because I felt like in Nina's story, she was very much in her own head because she was so grieving over Matthias. And I think that would explain why she's like not the best team player because she has so much shit to deal with. And then I think like her decision to stay to save the other women, even though that wasn't in line with Adric's like directions, I thought that was still fitting for Nina in a way that it proved that, I don't know, I feel like she really got to shine as a hero. But maybe I don't really care it's at the expense of Adric. Maybe that's my thing.
See, no, and that's the thing. I wasn't like actually mad about it. It was just like when the question was posed, that's what came to mind. But I also think that like just Nina, you know what? Can we talk about Nina for a sec? Like,
Yeah, let's talk about her.
To her storyline, because like that's the thing with Nina, which you said which I think is interesting, where you're like she's not in the headspace to be a team player, but it's interesting to me because I think her whole thing in Six of Crows was learning to be a team player. That's what I thought her arc was, which was interesting because like she started out not following Zoya's commands, and that's what got her abducted. That's what like ended her, like made her end up with Matthias and like all that stuff. And I thought her arc in Six of Crows, which was a lot more of a subtle arc, was her learning how to work as a team and like find her place within that. So it was interesting because like that's kind of what I interpreted her, really like one of her arcs to be in that story, was finding her place in that group as like, and being able to take commands and like all of that. I thought that was a part of her arc. So it was interesting because like, yeah, I felt like that was a complete jump. Like she was like, oh yeah, well, I went to Ketterdam and now I know how to be an assassin. So I'm like, I'm going to do this myself, which I thought was interesting because like she had learned kind of to be part of a team and like to rely on others. And I just think that wasn't explored well enough. If that was like the whole thing was because Matthias died, then now she's changed from that. Like I wasn't really sure where her character was at in regards to that. So I thought that like, you know, course of action was a little strange for her. But
right, it might feel like a regression when you see her kind of like building her character development to be more of like a team player and being able to work with others. And now she's like more individualistic.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like it was explored or explained in the book at all to me.
Mm-hmm. Kat, what do you think about Nina's story?
Okay, so I didn't even think about her character arc in Six of Crows. So I agree with what Jordan just said. I just, when I was reading King of Scars, I did feel like it was a little bit weird how she didn't like interact with her commander and the other girl like at all. And I thought that it was more of like a character thing than like a feminist issue.
I agree.
But I think that Jordan's right if like, because I haven't read Six of Crows in so long, that she did become a team player over the course of that book series. And also I thought it was strange because when she was thinking to herself a few times, she would like think of the dregs and think about Kaz and Inej and like all of them, and she would bring them up as like people who I assume she still trusted, but then she would turn around and like not trust or be willing to trust anybody else, which just struck me as strange, I guess. So I think that like the idea of this like regression is probably true, and I wish that it had been explained more because I was just kind of like curious about it the whole time but got no answers.
It kind of feels like Nina's dating a new guy, but then that new guy will never be like her ex. Kind of.
True.
I mean, with her attitude.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's the thing too, because you know, all she ever, like in Six of Crows, she was such a patriot, you know? She was all about Ravka and serving Ravka and all of that. So now that she's got the chance to serve Ravka, I mean, obviously that's shifted a little bit with the death of Matthias and all of that, you know, baggage and like what he left, like his dying wishes and all of that. So obviously, like, that's shifted a bit, but I don't think that would completely change the fact that she is this patriot and is trying to serve Ravka. Or maybe it would, but it's not explained. So I don't know. But I just didn't feel like, yeah, I felt like if she, you know, had learned to be a team player in the book in Six of Crows, and also, you know, is this patriot, she would be trying to, you know, work with fellow Ravkins to serve Ravka as a team player. And none of that was true in this book for no reason that I could discern.
Yeah, what I would hope to see for her journey throughout this duology is like, at least my interpretation of her in King of Scars is that right now she's in a place where she's very lost, both like mentally and I guess physically too, because she's just been through so much shit and lost something that was very important to her. And I feel like she kind of now has to rediscover like what she wants to do and what she values, which is why I liked how in the beginning, a lot of it was her grieving over Matthias, but then it starts to shift into like this bigger conflict of her trying to save other women. And I think that's why I liked her story arc here than in Six of Crows, where a lot of her story in Six of Crows kind of seemed like it revolved around another man. And this time it feels like she gets to be more of an individual or kind of like discover herself more. At least that's my interpretation and hope for her journey, like onwards to the second book.
See, I completely agree with that. I'm with you there. The only thing I guess is like I had with Nina what you had with Zoya, where it was like this feels a bit like a different character, and I get that grief changes people a lot. But I just wish it had been explored more so that we could kind of bridge that a little bit, because it did feel like a different Nina in quite a lot of ways for me. Like it just felt like her character was different at the end of at the end of Crooked Kingdom than what we got here, and I just didn't see like anything to kind of bridge that gap. So that's kind of I think my issue with it. But that being said, I did like the character arc. I just wish it had, like, because I had come in with expectations of not what Nina would be like, and those expectations weren't met. I guess I was just hoping for a little bit of clarification as to how she got to where she was.
Yeah. Speaking of her grief though, like I'm curious to hear your thoughts, both of you, about the transition of her grieving over Matthias to this new love interest with Hannah or however you pronounce it. What are your thoughts on Hannah overall? Kat, you want to
start? Okay. I felt like it was a little weird because I felt like at the very beginning of the book, when I started reading her chapters, I was very emotional about it because she was very emotional all the time. And like the whole thing with her hearing Matthias's voice in her head and like talking and to him and stuff, like that got me a lot.
Me too.
Yeah. I was like tearing up and I was like, wow, we are not even far enough in for this to be happening right now.
Can I just say that one scene where she's giving like the eulogy for him, that was the scene where like I was tearing up at the airport.
Yeah, it was a lot. And so I did feel like it was kind of like she buried him and then it was over because she realized that his voice had never been real and like it was just her talking to herself or whatever, which is, a grief thing and that makes sense. But once she realized that, I feel like it was kind of just like, okay, well, that's done. Now let's move on to somebody else, which is a little
on to the next one.
Yeah, like I'm ready to, let's go again. I mean, Hannah is like a person and like a future love interest. Yeah, I'm cool with it. I think that the way that they met and like the circumstances in which they met, and I think it's interesting because I think that there are definite parallels between like Hannah and Matthias and like how they view themselves and Grisha, etc., blah, blah, blah. And so clearly Nina has like a knack for picking up these lost Bajordan people.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, does she have a type or something?
This is
another Puritan. And then you find out that her dad is like the soldier that got into that kerfuffle with Nina. So it's like, is she just like doomed to just have these very awkward romantic relationships where it's like she shouldn't be with?
Yeah. See, oh, sorry, go Kat.
I just felt like it was like there were parallels between Hannah and Matthias, but then I also felt like there were there was obviously a connection between Hannah and Nina with the fact that they're both Grisha, obviously, but like even more than that, just kind of the way that they viewed certain things. I'm being vague. I don't know. Jordan, you can go.
Okay. I don't. Here's the thing. I don't dislike their relationship, but I felt like it was kind of insta-lovey, especially since she is grieving Matthias. But like also because like she was just like, wow, look at this majestic woman, and then she was like, I'm in love. You know, it was just kind of like, it didn't feel like there was an actual like getting to know you thing. She was just like, wow, that chestnut hair though. It was just, you know, it felt like very surface level for like most of it, until like it felt like it was all lust until, I don't know, it felt insta-lovey in my humble.
Yeah, I agree. I think that her attraction kind of came out of nowhere, where like you could tell she was attracted to Hannah, but there wasn't really like a basis for why she felt so closely to her.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I like the idea of her having a new love interest, because I do want Nina to be happy and I want her to be able to like move on. But I do think so I do enjoy, like, I especially like her new love interest being a woman, because she was established as bi in the Six of Crows book, and so it's nice to see her having different types of love interests. I do think it could have been executed better. Like, so my non-critical brain, when I was reading it during my work trip, I was just enjoying it for the ride. But I think if I were to be very critical about it, it does feel pretty sudden, because you were so used to reading about her grieving very deeply about Matthias and reading about his voice in her head. And then all of a sudden, he's not really mentioned anymore for the rest of the book once she starts to get attracted to Hannah. And I feel like it would have been more realistic if she was slowly starting to develop feelings for Hannah, but obviously she's still grieving over Matthias. It's not like one way or the other. She should be able to deal with both, or even have like the two of them conflict with each other too.
That's the thing too, because they are so similar. I think there was lots of opportunity to like for comparison in her head of like things that perspectives that Hannah, we're just calling her Hannah from now on, okay? Hannah had like perspectives that Hannah had that were similar to Matthias. So I think that Nina, it would have been easy for Nina to kind of compare the two of them in a lot of ways, and I think that would have been pretty.
Exactly.
But we didn't get that at all. It was literally almost like after Matthias was buried, he was gone. Like that was it.
Yeah, and I don't know why she didn't bring up Matthias anymore, because it's so easy to make the parallels with each other. Like their circumstances are very similar with one another, which kind of brings me to my next question with like, how do you guys feel about her new love interest being similar to Matthias? Is that like a good thing or a bad thing, or do you not care either way?
I guess
she totally has a type.
Yeah, she really does. I guess I just like, I'm curious to see how that will kind of like because I feel like Nina's character developed with Matthias's character. So I don't know, because maybe she regressed so much as far as like her character development. Maybe she's just gonna have the same old arc because they are so similar. It's just like, I don't know what I forgot Hannah. I just read it in different ways every time I like read the name. I was like, is it Hannah? Is it Han? Is it? But no, I think that I'm just curious as to like what new things she'll add to Nina's character development.
Yeah. Someone in a live chat named Suneda said it would have been nice for it to have started as Hannah helping Nina grieve and recover, and then feelings develop slowly from there. I think that would have like made more sense instead of like it's out. And I know some people in the live chat are saying, well, it's not confirmed that they're in a relationship, but I think it's pretty obvious that there's going to be like a thing between the two of them, and that's how it's going to be set up. I just wish it wasn't like set up so quickly and obviously, but that's coming from me who prefers like a slow burn romance.
Same.
And then, when you just lost a very big love interest, that needs to be even slower to make it more realistic.
Yeah. Also, sorry, go ahead, Kat.
On the topic of Matthias, what did you guys think about his like wolf showing up periodically? Like,
oh my god.
It was really emotional. I loved it, but then I also found it a little strange or like underused or something, because I feel like the first time it showed up was at the burial, obviously, which was really emotional, and then after the fact, I don't understand the purpose necessarily, other than to like warn Nina away. I was kind of viewing it as like Matthias coming back to help her, sort of.
Yeah,
Kind
looking
of
over. Oh,
yeah,
I know. That's what I thought it was going to be too. And yeah, I just thought it was also kind of underused,
but then
or
it's just a wolf.
not correctly. You
I
know?
kind of felt like it was used as more of an emotional punch to us, but I still liked reading about it because I like being emotionally devastated and I like dogs. So it was like the best of both worlds for me.
Yeah. I just
I wish we saw like more of the wolf like throughout the story. Like maybe that's like her new animal sidekick or something. That would have been super cute.
see. I just think that it either needed to be there, not at all, or used more and more effectively. You know, it
Or
was just
just the one time. Like if it had just shown up at the burial and then like gone away as like a symbolic Matthias leaving situation, that would have been fine. But it showed up like multiple times.
yeah. I know. I felt it weird. It was weird too. Like it just needed to be tweaked.
I feel like that's a common theme throughout this book where like a lot of it is kind of like we're meeting halfway. It's not like completely one thing or the other. We're just like right halfway where it's like it could be worse, but it could be better. Like in terms of like the world building and you know the whole thing with the wolf and the relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah. I agree. Also, okay. So I think I liked the plot bit of Nina rescuing the women. Women. Speak English. Love that for me on a live show. But yeah, no, I really liked that idea, especially because it was like these women were affected by Parem. Like there's all that going on, and so obviously she has this like special relationship with these women, and I think that the idea of like the getting them pregnant and having kids that are addicted to like Grisha kids that are addicted to Parem is like a special kind of horror that I think is really interesting. And I'm excited to see where that goes in the next book, like with the women, if they survive and like all of that. I think that's a really interesting idea and definitely something that I could see, something that I could see happening in war times, like this horrible, horrific human experimentation, and especially like on people that are seen as inferior. It just kind of reminded me of World War II, and in that sense, which I thought was really interesting and yeah, especially horrific. But at the same time, like that's the kind of thing that I would have loved to see more of, like with Jarl Broom and like all this stuff. Like I feel like there was a lot of really interesting ideas presented in the story that just didn't quite get there, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that plot was the strongest out of all of the plots in King of Scars. And I feel like that helped Nina's story go like to a whole new level. So I appreciated that it wasn't just about her grieving, but like it was an external conflict, but it also helps with the internal conflict of her like rediscovering herself after Crooked Kingdom.
Yeah,
But
and the whole
yeah,
because of the Parem stuff, like there was an added layer of like complexity to it that had to do with like her inner conflicts and stuff as well. So I did appreciate that. But go ahead. Yeah.
now I kind of wish we could see the Six of Crows gang getting together to save all those women to be addicted from Parem. Just replace everything with Six of Crows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If Nina's having a storyline now, what do you guys think is going to happen in Six of Crows, like with her? Like, sorry, I just thought about this. Like if they're all coming back together, is Nina going to be? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking. I don't.
Are you thinking about the third Six of Crows book?
Yeah, like Six of Crows 3. That's gonna happen. I wonder.
That's happening?
Apparently.
But not anytime soon.
Stop it. Please stop it. Stop it, Leigh Bardugo.
Yeah, also I feel like she's gonna wreck it, but whatever. Okay, anyway. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder how Nina's storyline now is gonna affect Six of Crows in the future, because if she's regressed so much and not been a team player, like if they get back together as a gang, I wonder what that's gonna be like.
Also, it's 5 of crows, so maybe it'll be 4 of crows, and then it'll just be bad because it's 4 of crows instead of 6 of crows, and dumb.
I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm. Don't. Yeah. It just doesn't sound right.
No, I'll never say that.
Hannah will be the sixth of the 6 of crows, and Anna and Nina, and then it'll really be her replacing Matthias in my heart and in the real life. Ugh.
I mean, I don't mind Hannah as like the love interest, but she's not cool enough to be part of the 6 of Crows gang.
No, she's not. Yeah. See, I couldn't. Here's the thing. I'm with you where I want Nina to be happy, but it wasn't handled well. Really, her like grief and moving on, and that's the thing, because Nina was so like insta lovey with Hannah. I feel like we didn't really get to know her character as much as we needed to, especially as a love interest, but just in general. If she's like, yeah, we're gonna be, she like, speaking of Wylans, she is Wylan in the first 6 of Crows book. It's like, you exist and you're fine, but you're like, who are you though? You know, that's kind of how I felt about Hannah, and like that ain't cutting it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's like another reason for why the relationship between Nina and Hannah and the attraction should have been way slower or like built up more gradually, because then that would have allowed us to see Nina just on her own as an individual without her storyline revolved around her romantic relationship with anybody else, whether that's Matthias or Hannah or whoever. It could just be her on her own, figuring out her own thing. Yeah. And then later she could be whoever she wants to end up with.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a question by Raven Nivhar who said, what do you 3 think about the wolves that attacked Nina at Matthias's funeral? Do you think they were affected by Parem or just something from the river?
Wasn't that the same thing? Wasn't the river full of Parem?
That's
why not both?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it was Parem, then why would the girl whose name I forget, because she was completely irrelevant to the story because Nina completely like undermined her team the entire time. But you know, that one, the girl that was on
Tamar, or
no, Tamar is one of the twins.
Oh, the one whose name starts with an L.
Is it an L? I thought it was an I. That one, you know, who tried to remove poison from the river.
Was it poison then? What kind of poison?
That's the thing. She's a Grisha, so if it was Parem, then she wouldn't have been poisoned. She just would have been affected in the Parem kind of way. But she was poisoned, which makes me believe that whatever was in the river wasn't Parem and wasn't explained.
So why did the wolf attack her then?
I assumed that it was like the different Parem that they were using to inject the women, because wasn't it different? Because I mean, they were addicted, but like,
no, it was different.
Okay,
but she wasn't addicted. She didn't have any of the like Parem side effects. She wasn't addicted. So what was she? Why was she poisoned by the river? Because I also thought that, but then I thought about it again, and I was like, wait a minute.
I don't know. Something else that wasn't explained.
Thomas Nguyen said the lady died because she's not a Grisha.
No, not the. I'm not talking about the Grisha. I'm talking about, I'm talking about the Grisha. I'm not talking about the girl that was with Hannah. I'm talking about the girl that was with Nina, who's a Grisha, who was trying to remove the poison from the river. She was Grisha, so if it was Parem, she wouldn't have almost died, and she would have displayed like had the addictive, you know, thing that the other people were affected by. If it was
Leonie, that's her name.
Leona?
Leonie.
Okay, yeah, her.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what was in the river.
Yeah. Should we talk about the Darkling at the end and your thoughts about it?
Probably.
We gotta. Who wants to start?
Kat. It has to be Kat that starts.
Okay, listen. I'm upset about it because, being very calm, we've done this shit before. Like, this is not our first, like, rodeo when it comes to the resurrection trope, and I always think that the resurrection trope is a cop-out because it just, unless there's, like, a super good reason, but in every book, most every book that I've ever read that has someone come back from the dead, there's not a good reason, or not seemingly anyway, whatever. So I feel like it was more of a mess though, because like this is the second time this has happened, and I don't like it. Also, I hate the Darkling. Also, I think that it's more unnecessary because it just really makes the book feel like nothing happened, because Nikolai goes on this whole quest to get the monster out of him, and then it turns out that this whole battle that they had, the monster's still inside. It's just been kind of smushed down a little bit. So like nothing happened. We went this whole 500-page journey for literally nothing, plus the Darkling is back. And also, I think that now there's going to be a maybe too much question mark happening in book 2, because you're going to have the Darkling and Nikolai's monster, and the fact that there's a Lansov like pretender or whatever coming to try and steal the throne, plus whatever Nina's doing, plus probably a couple of other things. Like there's gonna be so much happening. And also I don't want the Darkling to be back, because what if that means that other people come back, like Alina? Why would that would be terrible. Wait for it. There was one more thing. Oh my god, hold on. Sorry, I wrote notes. Also,
Oh, you were prepared.
oh, but okay, so I mean, I'm upset about it, obviously, but like the one thing I will say is I think if anybody can make the resurrection trope a good thing, it could be Leigh Bardugo. I think she could pull some wild stuff and like make me not upset about it. Also, I'm curious to see what she does, because when Mal came back from the dead, she had the luxury of being able to just end Ruin and Rising without like really giving us any information about it or like showing anything really. And so she doesn't have that opportunity this time because we have a whole nother book. So I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that she actually explains like what's happening, and that this resurrection isn't just a chance to bring another hot guy back from the dead, like something actually comes of it. So it could turn out to be okay, but right now I'm upset. Okay, I'm done.
Silky Blayen in the live chat said the only good role for the Darkling in the second book is if he becomes like this grumpy, sarcastic uncle that nobody wants to hang around. I think that's still the case now. Like even in the first book, everyone's just like, "Ugh, you again."
Yeah. Cindy, why don't you go ahead on your thoughts?
So my thoughts are very short. For some reason, I feel like I should have seen it coming, but I wasn't really paying attention most of the time when I was reading this book, because I was like on my work trip and like so busy and hectic that I kind of was just like, I feel like my brain was on pilot mode when I was reading this book, and that's why I don't feel as salty about it as you guys. But when the Darkling appeared, I was like, oh shit, we're gonna get into this. And I didn't feel salty about it, but I think that's because a lot of times I am chaotic neutral. I am more so entertained by the chaos that's gonna ensue from the Darkling coming back and fucking shit up, including readers' reactions to it. And a part of me is a bit intrigued because I feel like Leigh Bardugo tried to salvage a lot of things when she rewrote Nikolai and Zoya and some other characters in King of Scars, that I am curious to see how she will now approach the Darkling, especially now like the main character is different too. It's not going to be like a 16-year-old who's thirsty for the Darkling. Like none of the main characters are thirsty for the Darkling. So I think he's going to be an actual like antagonist. So yeah, I'm pretty much down for whatever. And you know, maybe this is just the chaotic neutral in me talking, but if I think about like her randomly tossing in like the Darkling or Alina, I feel like it would be such a hot mess, but I'm just like, let's go with it. So yeah, I'm very nonchalant about the whole thing.
Yeah. Here's my thing. The first half of the book, I was for it because, as I said, it felt very low fantasy, like Six of Crows. And now I'm just worried that we're gonna get sucked, like especially with the back half of the book with the crazy like alternate universe thing. I was so for the politics of putting Ravka back together after the Darkling. That's what I was like. I was interested in that. I thought that was very intriguing, especially as you pointed out, Kat, with all the stuff like the Fjerdan, like Pretender, as well as now with the assassination attempt by the Shoe. There are so many like political things that like conflicts that could be interesting enough for a story, in my opinion, if she handled it correctly, especially like the way, if I were to rewrite this with like the same kind of ideas, but just better, in my opinion.
Again, but better.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Good booktube name drop there, Cindy. But yeah, so if I were to do King of Scars, what I would do is have it be low fantasy and you could even have Nina's perspective, but have Nina's story tie in with the Fjerdan Pretender, have that be an integral part of Nina's story, because she is a Ravkan spy, so that does make sense. And you could still have all the stuff with like saving the girls, but have, maybe like instead of Jarl Broom, like have him play a key role, because then it ties in with the Nikolai story. Building those connections. And then also just have Nikolai's story not be about this crazy inner demon Darkling battle alternate universe baloney. Have it just be the politics of putting Ravka back together. And you can have some fantasy stuff, of course, but then have it be like Six of Crows, where the rest of the perspectives are all kind of centered around putting Ravka back together. So have Zoya, maybe Zoya goes away and like has to do something, but like she's at the castle for the most part. She's trying to put Ravka back together. He's trying to put Ravka back together. You could have Isaac there. Isaac trying to like do his best, be the king's double, whatever. You could still have a lot of the same elements, but just have it be a lot more low fantasy and without all this crazy stuff. Because now that the Darkling's back, I know it's going to be some high fantasy, good versus evil, fighting your inner demons, but literally, like, that's going to go on. And it's just like, I don't want this high fantasy bull that you can't pull off very well, Leigh Bardugo. You do well with, like, solid, grounded character stuff rather than the big, showy, flashy, good versus evil stuff. Like, that is a lot less interesting when you do it versus the, like, smaller, character-driven things. So that would be, if I were to tell Leigh Bardugo to do it again, but better, that would be what I would do, is focus on the politics.
I 100% agree with you. I think that the weakest parts of her book in King of Scars were, and I guess Grisha Trilogy too, were really like her attempts at writing high fantasy. She does a lot better when she writes low fantasy, as we saw from Six of Crows, because so much of it was grounded with more real characters and none of this alternate universe gods or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that having the Darkling come back. So, okay, my chaotic neutral side is like, haha, let's fuck shit up. And then my critical side is like, yeah, having the Darkling come back does detract from the stronger parts of the book, which is the politics that they're supposed to deal with after Ravka, especially because a lot of Nikolai's story, as you're reading his parts, talks about how much he cares about Ravka, even though the country is so shitty, and his loyalty and devotion to Ravka. So it would have been nice to really hone in on that too.
Especially because, like, sorry, Kat, I'm going to let you talk in a sec, but that's the thing too, is like, you see a lot of these major fantasy stories that are like good versus evil and like defeating the bad guy, but you don't often get stories that explore what happens after you defeat the bad guy. So I thought that could be a very interesting series, is like putting Ravka back together, especially with these new added challenges of Parem and of like all these assassins trying to like come for your throne. There's so many elements that then the whole like marrying for love versus marrying for, political alliances. There's so many elements that could have been explored, but now I feel like are probably not going to be explored to their fullest extent because we're going to be dealing with this whole Darkling thing.
Yeah, and I wonder if she feels compelled to pull in all that extra stuff because maybe she thinks that people are less likely to read something that's purely political. Like maybe that's not seen as like exciting compared to like other fantasy books. But go ahead.
Well, she could though, because she does have the multiple perspectives. She has 2 Grishas in her perspectives of the like 3 major perspectives in this book. So Zoya could definitely be doing some Grisha stuff. Nina definitely is doing some Grisha stuff, and you do have conflicts that could be, you know, Grisha important. So you could have your magic and eat it too, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I'm still on board with like it being rewritten with the perspectives of Zoya and Nina and that one assassin chick. And that they all deal with political turmoil. I think you make a really great point that there are so many fantasy stories that are about good versus evil. And then we get a story about what happens afterward, like what happens after the end. And it could be a very realistic, grounded way of showing how people have to pick up the pieces after a dramatic war. And in a way, it could kind of be like a subversion of what we commonly see as a typical fantasy story too, where you're kind of like seeing like, oh, these are the actual repercussions of it. Like life goes on and people still got to deal with shit afterward.
For sure. And that's an interesting part of that, which I thought was explored well, was the whole, the Yuri guy who was like worshiping the Starless One or whatever as a saint and like wanted to do that, because I think that so easily people are ready to forget the past and or rewrite the past you know, as conveniently as they want to. And so I think that that's a very interesting element of the story, and I think that again that could have been explored better, but it wasn't, because high fantasy and alternate dimensions and saints and whatever.
I personally like didn't care for Yuri at all, but I think that was because it, to me, he felt like a caricature because he was just like this total fanboy of the Darkling, and it almost felt like Leigh Bardugo was like making fun of Darkling fangirls by putting like, you know, just this total fanboy over him. And I don't know, we didn't really see anything about his character other than him being totally in awe of the Darkling, that it felt kind of cartoonish to me, so I wasn't like really feeling it.
No, I totally get that. I don't think it was handled well, but I think that that is an interesting idea that could have been explored, basically. I think his character, like the whole like erasure of the past thing, could have been an interesting story element, but it, you know.
I think it would have been interesting to see like on that note, like after a major story is over, like with the war and with the chosen one being done with her duties or whatever, how do people perceive the events of the past? And like, do people herald Alina? Well, I think it's shown a little bit. People have like put Alina on a pedestal and seen her as more of like this grander folklore kind of thing. And they don't know like the real story. So yeah, it would have been interesting to see that. Kat, did you have like any thoughts about Yuri and his whole plot?
I mean, I agree with you that he just was he just felt very flat to me, because again, we got no backstory on him at all, or like reasoning. And I do think that his glorification, I guess, of like the Darkling could play into a very political story. But if we could go back for a second, I was thinking while you were saying about making it like a solely political thing, and I think I was thinking about Nikolai because the story obviously is about him, and I think that even if we didn't have the whole like literal demon thing to represent his inner demons or whatever, I still think that like I actually think that it would be more interesting and maybe more relatable, understandable, whatever, if he was facing his inner demons like internally rather than expelling this like Birdman every time and like literally facing it, because I think he has that moment, I think in the battle where he's like comparing himself to Ravka, and then he realizes that he is Ravka because he doesn't want to like stop fighting or whatever. I thought that was like probably the most poignant part of his whole story, and I think that if all of it was like that, where he was like coming to these conclusions and then also like putting it into a bigger grand scheme of like politics and like his country, I think that would just be more interesting. I just think that the bird thing is kind of dumb, but yeah.
I think Leigh Bardugo kind of like pigeonholed herself in that, because the Grisha trilogy did end with Nikolai becoming Birdman. So she had to like, you know, resolve it the best way she could. But yeah, I do think that his whole thing about him being like the monster being a symbolic representation of the monster within is too like overt for my taste. And so it kind of felt, I don't know. I don't like it when things are like too obvious, and I wish there was more nuance with the way that his character was developed. But you talking about how he realizes that he is Ravka kind of reminds me of like Leslie Knope trying to save Pawnee. If you watch Parks and Rec, yeah. Like, because Pawnee's such like a piece of shit, but she's so like adamant about saving it.
Nikolai is the Leslie Knope of this world. Confirmed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So someone asked in the comments a while back, which I didn't grab their names, and I'm sorry, but I'm sure you know who you are. They asked what we all thought about the like betrayal of the, you know, the woman Elisabetta, and like that whole thing.
Honestly, I felt so lukewarm about that entire story going on that I really don't give a shit either way. So, I mean, like, even the gods themselves didn't really have any personalities. They were just very clearly like caricatures of like these gods that had no personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You would think that after living thousands and thousands of years, they would develop a personality, but here we are. So, yeah, I didn't really care.
I didn't care either. I was more focused on the fact that she was like a woman made out of bees, because that's terrifying to me. So that's what I was concerned with, rather than her betrayal.
I also didn't care. So that's awesome. Epic. Yeah. Also, I'm just worried that Zoya's character is going to be ruined by this dragon being inside her.
I agree.
Nikolai can be a bird. Zoya can be a dragon. Nina can be a waffle. They can just turn into like animals or inanimate objects. Oh my God, what if the sequel is just like them being furries? Would you consider that high fantasy or a low fantasy?
Ooh, that is a good question. Guys, we have to, because we have to do Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
What are the choices? The 3 central characters, or oh wait, well there's Isaac too.
Yeah, there's Isaac.
Okay, you choose the contenders.
Okay. Wow.
Play.
Huh. Okay. How about we each? No, that's dumb. I'll just choose. Isaac definitely has to be one of them, because who cares about Isaac? Actually, here, let's do 2 versions. We'll do Isaac, Hannah, and the assassin chick, and then we'll do the 3 main ones. Actually, no, not the assassin chick. Isaac, Hannah, and Yuri.
Oh, okay. Well, I would kill Yuri because he's too annoying. Like, oh, you know what Yuri reminded me of? The Apparat in the Grisha trilogy. Remember how annoying the Apparat was? Yuri gave me the same vibes.
It was even more annoying to me. The Apparat was just like, I feel like there were hidden depths to the Apparat that we didn't get to see from Alina's perspective, you know? But like Yuri, I'm like, nah, you literally just dumb. Like,
yeah, you only exist to be thirsty for the Darkling.
Really? Okay, yeah, Yuri's. I lied. Yuri's too obvious. We're going back. We're doing the assassin. Whatever. Not Nikolai. The other one.
Okay, I would kill the assassin because I don't trust her. I feel like she would kill me, so I would get her out of the way. I would want to marry Isaac because he's like a good, wholesome dude, and that leaves Hannah to bang. So
there we are.
Yeah. I beat Nina to the punch for that. I gotta do it so that it gives Nina time to grieve, you know?
Yeah, sure. Cat.
I would kill the assassin because I feel like she'd kill me. Also, I just don't know her. Like, what is she like? Who is she? I don't know. Maybe I'll change my answer by book 2, but
even if the assassin cared about you, she could still kill you, as evident by King of Scars.
True. Yeah. She has no morals. Anyway, I would. Yeah, I would do the same thing as Cindy because Isaac just seems like he's a good, wholesome husband, and then Hannah, like, she's got that chestnut hair, so like, ooh.
Ooh, chestnut hair.
I'd probably do the exact same thing. So I guess that leads us to our main 3. Start with you, Kat, because you started last time, Cindy.
Okay. Oh my god. Kill Nikolai. I would do him a favor because I would kill the Birdman, and also he's clearly the inferior choice here. And then I think I would.
Dude, Ravka would go to shit if you killed him.
That's what I was thinking. I was
Okay, listen. I'm concerned about myself right now, not Ravka. So thanks. I would fuck Zoya because I don't think I could be married to her because she's too mean. I would cry, and then I'd marry Nina, and we'd eat waffles every day. Done.
Aw, that's sweet. I would fuck Nikolai because I feel like he would be good in bed. Hopefully he doesn't turn into a bird halfway through because that would be bad. So I'm not into that. I would prefer him human the whole time. And then I would marry Nina for your same reasoning. I would like a lifetime supply of waffles, and I feel like she would supply me with that if we were together. And so that leaves me killing Zoya off, unfortunately.
I would also kill Zoya. Zoya loved the girl and all, but we have better options here. I don't have anything against her, but now that I am become the dragon. I am become the dragon.
I am become the dragon.
I fear she will become a lot less interesting. Also, I feel like she wouldn't be particularly great in bed, even though she's hot, and I would not want to marry her. So
I feel like she would just be like super judgmental the whole time.
Also, I don't feel like she'd be a very like generous lover, you know?
Nah.
Wait, now I want to change my answer.
Wouldn't want to pleasure, you know? But then I feel like I would probably marry Nikolai, because politics are interesting and all. And also I'd be a queen, which would be kind of sick. And also, like, I feel like I could get behind Ravka and like, I feel like that's a good like life's work. He seems like a decent guy to be around. Maybe not the most like, he's in his own world. He's a little selfish and all that, but I could, and then Nina just is a hottie, and we'd bang it out.
The reason why I wouldn't marry Nikolai is because I don't want to deal with the whole thing where he transforms into a bird and I have to fucking shackle him to bed every night. It's just like, I don't want to incorporate that for my nighttime routine.
Yeah.
So
what does that mean for our kids?
Yeah.
Children? Wait a minute.
Yeah, so that's just too much trouble for me, and that's why I would only bang him instead, because I do think he would still be good in bed. And I don't want to kill him like Kat, because I don't want to leave Ravka to shit.
Yeah. Okay, you may be right. I think Cindy won this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to be pragmatic about this. Yeah. Okay. What if the 3 options were Nikolai as a bird, Zoya as a dragon, and the Darkling as he is? That's a hard one, right?
Okay, well, I'd bang the Darkling because that's the only bangable one. I don't want to bang a...
I don't know. You could bang any of them.
Are we sure? That's a demon and a dragon. I'm gonna... Also, the Darkling, despite his, like, general shitty days, is still a man and a hot one. So, probably that. Kill, I guess, kill the demon because he doesn't seem like a good husband, and at least the dragon has like thoughts and feels, and a lifetime of experience. So I guess marry the dragon.
Oh, I meant Zoya as the dragon.
Oh, that's fine also.
Okay, same thing.
Yeah.
What about you, Kat?
If they're in their animal form, are they actively trying to kill me, or are they like down to fuck? Like, what kind of like what energy am I getting here? Aggressive?
That's up to your interpretation. Whatever you're down for.
If we're all friends here, then I guess I would kill the dragon. I don't know. Bye. And then, oh my god, I don't want to marry the darkling. I guess I'd marry the darkling, and I would keep him locked up at all times and just go and look at him in satisfaction and say, ha. And then I suppose I would fuck Nikolai the Birdman. I don't know. That's impossible.
Oh my god. You nasty.
No, this is not what I expected from you, Kat.
You nasty. But it's okay. We don't kink shame around here.
This book has broken me.
I think I would kill the Birdman because he just poses too much of a threat to people. Like, he's literally out here trying to almost kill people. That's why Zoya has to be Nikolai's fucking babysitter and shackle him to bed. So I don't want to deal with any of that. I would just kill him, get it over with. I would fuck the Darkling because I don't want to fuck a dragon. I feel like that would be really painful. And also, supposedly the Darkling's like really good in bed because he's had like thousands of years of experience. So yeah, I think he's the most qualified for that role. And then I guess that means I would marry a dragon. Then we could just like fucking fly around the world. So yeah, those are my choices.
Similar tastes, Cindy. Similar tastes. So there was lots of people talking about the opening of the book, the little prologue-y bit with the kiddo. Thoughts on that? I liked it. I liked that prologue.
Yeah, I was like, okay, when I read it, when I first started the book, being aware of how Leigh Bardugo writes the prologues for like Six of Crows and Grisha trilogy, I was like, we'll see. And then I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't like that bad. I thought it was like a good setup. And then at the end of the first chapter, when it's revealed that she didn't write Zoya's name or Nikolai's name, but you could tell that it was them. And it was like a nice way to like tie that in. And I think that's what made it work, because the first chapter, even though it was told from some rando's perspective, you saw it from the perspective of someone viewing the central characters. So I think that's like what made it work.
I think it not only that, it heightened the whole conflict of it all because he almost killed a child, like an innocent kid. And so like that's better experienced than like just like saying Zoya saying, oh, you almost killed a kid tonight. Like I think it was actually like a really good use of a prologue, unlike a lot of the unlike Juiced, our good boy Juice.
Whoa. Don't throw Juice under the bus. He did nothing wrong in King of Scars. He was just chilling in the ground. Wait.
Nina will be communicating with Juiced in the next book.
Oh my god, what if he came back at the end with the Darkling?
Nina, I need help. Like, avenge me.
Avenge my mustache.
Oh
wait,
god.
Before you answer the rest, I do want to say, because earlier you were saying that you would marry Nikolai because of politics. I actually would think that you guys would be like a power couple, because clearly you are very invested in Ravkan politics and you have so many great ideas about how you would rewrite the book. So I think anytime like Nikolai or whoever is about to go into some high fantasy bullshit, you're just like, no, let's just stick to the politics. And then you would keep it well-grounded. So I just wanted to say that I approve of your choice for that. I think you'd be a great contender for Nikolai's wife.
Are you calling me a queen, Cindy?
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. I feel like we would Nikolai and I would rule the world. We would, or not really. We would rule Ravka. I have no ambition to rule the world. That seems like kind of shady.
Yeah, you're not the Darkling.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, continue on.
I don't know what I was saying.
What were we saying? I totally forgot.
Yeah, probably.
The opening, the prologue. Why it was.
Kat, go.
Oh, okay. I thought that it did a good combination of what the prologue from Shadow and Bone and the prologue from like Six of Crows, like those books did. Because Six of Crows, the problem was it didn't show us the actual characters who were in the book, and then Shadow and Bone, it did that weird fairy tale style, which I didn't really like. But this one didn't do that, and then it also showed the actual characters, so I was all for it. Also, the kid was cute. Okay, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I thought it did a good job at like building up the tension. Just pretty much what Jordan said. Like you really like it would have been very easy to see like him nearly killing some random victim as like, oh well, but then you actually see the perspective of the almost victim. So it really helps build up the tension. Finally, after 2 series, Leigh Bardugo gets a prologue.
Gotten it right.
I had a question, but it backtracks a lot. I am curious because you guys didn't really talk about it. What were your thoughts about Nikolai and Zoya's relationship and potential romance? Are you a fan of it? Are you not a fan? Or do you not care either way?
I'm into it. I think that they're both relatively self-assured and independent people, and I like when like two power people come together and are like fucking shit up. So I'm cool with it. Also, I was thinking at the end when like it became very clear that they were going to have some probably romance in the second book, I was thinking, you know those apps where like you can combine two people's faces and see like what their baby's going to look like and how like good the baby's going to look? Their baby would be so beautiful because
their baby would be hot.
Yes. See, I am so for it because here's the thing: Nina and Hannah, I was not for because of the whole like Matthias thing, of the whole like insta love thing, Nina's obsessiveness for it. Like none of it felt okay to me. It was like, I want you to be happy, Chica, but like literally, Leigh Bardugo is going about this all wrong. So I was just like, you know. But Zoya and Nikolai, I am so freaking here for because okay, multiple things. First off, yeah, like. There's so much like chemistry between them, the banter that they have, but there's also a lot of like tenderness, but they don't allow themselves to be tender because of their positions and because of the fact that they can't be together, which I'm not gonna lie, I am a sucker for some forbidden romance. Like live for that.
I love seeing characters have to hold back their feelings, like and they gotta fucking, keep that shit unlocked on the down low.
I love it so much. And like, yeah, obviously they've slowly, it's like the other thing that I love, which is the slow burn thing. Like they clearly care a lot about each other, but it's been built over time. Like they've slowly learned to trust each other. There's so many good elements. And like, unlike Alina, like I feel like Nikolai and Alina, when that was kind of like teased in the Grisha trilogy as like a potential romantic lover, I was like, no, because Alina didn't challenge him, whereas Zoya challenges him. Like they're a good match for each other because she pulls out the best of him and he pulls out the best of her in a lot of ways, which is what you want from a romantic relationship. And then on top of that, now we have the added player of the shoe queen or princess or whatever. So that's adding another like dimension of drama to the relationship, and I'm here for it. Yes. Big yes.
Yeah. I totally agree. And it was very unexpected for me to actually like them together because again, like I mentioned before, they didn't really have any kind of relationship in the Grisha trilogy. So I was surprised to see like, oh, they actually really work well together for all the reasons that you said. I especially enjoyed reading their banter. I think that was like one of the main things that made me enjoy reading King of Scars was just seeing like their interactions with one another. I liked how, I don't remember like what the exact dialogue was, but I think it was like when she was shackling him up so that he wouldn't turn into a monster and like kill random people in the middle of the night. And he was like, why don't you kiss me to sleep or whatever? Like just, do you remember that?
Yeah.
He said something along those lines. I don't know. I just thought it was like cute to like, and I think there was something else that I was going to say too, but I totally forgot in the name of that.
Add one more thing too. Cause like, to me also, because that was the thing with Nikolai in the first trilogy, was that he didn't love Alina, right? And so Nikolai, while I liked his character because all of the other characters sucked, it was more like that, really, than like actually loving him. for being awesome in the first one because he didn't seem real in the first, like in the Grisha trilogy, because he was just too much of a perfect like leader, prince, whatever. And I love that we got some backstory as to like how he became that way, but also just the fact that he is human. He's this young guy who like has emotions and, you know, does the love thing, is like very refreshing and adds like a whole other depth to his character. And the same can be said for Zoya, because like in the first, you know, in the Grisha trilogy, she really doesn't seem to care that much about anyone. Even though like she joins Alina's side, like it does, you know, besides the Darkling, which then, you know, obviously she feels betrayed by, blah, blah, blah. She does, which is more, it isn't love, it's more like adoration and, you know, like holding him on this pedestal and like wanting to feel it's different, you know? But then having these feelings of like girly love for Nikolai really adds depth to her character, and like it does that for both of them, and that makes me happy too. There's just so much good that comes from them being in love with each other.
Yeah, I think that both of them are able to humanize the other. So you're not just seeing them for what their role is, you're seeing them as like human beings. And I remember what I wanted to say earlier. And it was that I think Leigh Bardugo writes better relationships when there has already been an established history in the past. And now you get to this point where they already trust each other and they have each other's backs, rather than building a relationship from zero to a full-on relationship, as we saw with Nina and Hannah, you know, where they totally didn't know each other at all. And then all of a sudden they were attracted. And I think in a way, a little bit kind of reminded me of Kaz and Inej, where they both, like those two couples all had history with each other in the past. And you see them interacting with each other, towing the line of like comrades and romantic relationship, but they have, regardless, they have that trust with each other. What were you going to say, Jordan?
Counterpoint, Alina and Mal and Wylan and Jesper. So I feel like it's just 50-50 because Alina and Mal suck, Wylan and Jesper suck. They're an established relationship. Jesper and Wylan are good. So, you know, I feel like that's not entirely a correct statement, because she can do established relationships wrong and she can do non-established relationships right.
I guess I was comparing it just from Six of Crows onwards, because I personally liked reading more about Kaz and Inej and Nina and Matthias, because they had that history, and I was really intrigued about like discovering what the history was along the way. And I didn't feel as connected to Wylan and Jesper, other than them being like the side couple. But that's just my preference.
Fair.
Yeah, shut up.
Let's see. I guess we should probably start wrapping this up because it's been almost 2 hours. But if we have any questions from the chat, now would be the time.
I have one more question, I guess.
Okay.
I'm seeing people in the chat ranking all of the books. I want to know like your specific like book by book ranking. I'm curious.
That's Raven's question. Now that there are 6 books, what are your rankings from best to worst?
Okay, Raven. I'm so sorry I stole your question.
I know, so I can start. So it would be Crooked Kingdom, Six of Crows, King of Scars, Ruin and Rising, Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm.
Okay, mine's almost identical. Crooked Kingdom, Six of Crows, King of Scars, Shadow and Bone, Ruin and Rising, Siege and Storm.
Okay. Crooked Kingdom, Six of Crows, King of Scars. I think Shadow and Bone comes next, because I feel like I was more forgiving of that first book because there was more time to salvage it. I was like, we'll see, like anything could happen. Like it could get better, but it didn't. And then after that, the third book, I don't remember what the title was.
Ruin and Rising.
Ruin and Rising. And then last at the bottom would be Siege and Storm, because that was so painful to get through. And I think like, oh, that was the book where it totally dived into that love square instead of like any political plots or any kind of plot. And the pacing was messy as fuck. So yeah.
Never forget.
Oh. Ishika says, what are your guys' predictions for book 2?
Well, are we talking like what we think is actually going to happen or what we want to happen? I
Um,
want to happen.
both.
Both. Well, I think we've kind of, I mean, I think that you've made it like clear what we want to happen. All girls, political. But I think what is actually going to happen is like,
I think there's still going to be that high fantasy. I feel like that would take up at least half of the book, since we kind of tried to establish that in the first book. I think majority, like the main conflict will probably be trying to defeat the Darkling.
I wonder if we're going to get a perspective from the Darkling. That
would be interesting. Oh, and okay, so I think this is why I was open to reading about the Darkling, because, like I said before, like Leigh Bardugo was able to rewrite some of the characters in the Grisha trilogy better. And one of the things that I didn't like about the Darkling in the original trilogy was that we didn't really know him. Like, he was just an empty shell of an antagonist. We didn't know like his background story or his real thoughts or whatever. So I'm interested to see what she could explore with that. It's a shame that it's at the expense of like any political intrigue that she could have had. But now that we have him, might as well try to flesh him out.
Yeah. Predictions. So yeah, I think, unfortunately, Nina's story will remain largely unconnected to the main storyline, with the potential of her encountering at least the Fjerdan like dude that is trying to be a Lansov, so I think that she might encounter him, but that's kind of the extent to which it will be connected, with perhaps the added connection of maybe the women going to Ravka, like the women and Grisha children going to Ravka. Perhaps that will play into it, but I don't think, I think it'll remain largely unconnected for at least the next book. I don't know if is it a trilogy or a duology? Duology, yeah, I have fears that it's going to remain widely unconnected. And then I think, unfortunately, because that's been the case, we're not going to get that much more info on the shoe, even though I think that could have been a cool thing that could have happened. But now with the Darkling coming, that's going to be the main focus of book 2. So the shoe assassination, I think, is going to get shoved to the side, but we might get the princess and assassin playing a minor role in the politics and whatever. But I do think that the whole war with Fjerda and Shu might be a thing that comes into play with the Darkling. That might be the Darkling might actually be the thing that saves Ravka, and that Nikolai might be able to make an alliance in order to, like, with this Shu, because of his new wife, in order to defeat the Darkling. And that could potentially help in future things with Ravka. But that's all I got, really.
I definitely think that the assassin will play a bigger role in the second book, because there was just a lot of hints to like inner turmoil that she had after killing Isaac that I think will definitely be explored. I think we'll have to deal with more dragon nonsense. Sora is a dragon. I think that it won't be like, for Nina and Hannah, I feel like it will be hinted that they'll be together, but it won't be like, bam, they're already together. Like I can envision them at the end, maybe like reflecting on what just happened and then holding hands or something, but it won't be like, bam, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I wonder if the apparat's gonna come back, because he was there at the beginning and then he like disappeared, and I'm thinking maybe I don't know why there has to always be like a religious man having a role in the story, but I feel like he's gonna take Yuri's place and like be that.
And why are like the religious man in these stories always so fucking annoying? And they're like,
I've been waiting for the apparat to be an interesting character since Shadow and Bone. I was like, this guy could be an interesting political figure that could really change the tides of like how this goes. And instead it's just like, I'm a thirsty for power, angry religious figure who just like, it's like, why create this interesting religious political thing? Like the whole like religion in Ravka. Like, I think that's really interesting. And then just have it be all like about a man who's thirsty for power. Like literally,
caricature. That's all he was.
He with implied depth. A caricature with implied depth that never gets explored. You know? Yeah. Unfortunate.
We had a lot of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I see a couple questions that I wanted to ask the two of you. Raven asked if you could play any character in the Shadow and Bone adaptation. Who would you play?
So I saw that they are casting Alina as half Asian. So I feel like I can fulfill being Asian and being a dumb bitch pretty authentically if they want like true representation.
Okay, but if you were just like, oh, she's being like, if you could play anyone, who would you play?
I don't know. I think it'd be fun to be Alina and just be like the main character of a show.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I would be.
You would be Wylan.
Yeah.
Oh, are we including Six of Crows? Okay, yeah, then I'd be Wylan. If we're just talking Shadow and Bone, are they all in the same?
I'd be the stunt double for Jordy's floating body.
I'd be Kaz, but only when he faints and is all like gross.
I'd be Juice's mustache.
I feel like I would be, you know, if it was just like the Six of Crows and Grisha trilogy, because I think that's all the Netflix adaptation covers, I would be Zoya, honestly. I feel like I could pull off Zoya's bitchiness. I feel like I am the Zoya of BookTube anyway. I feel like that's how people regard me. They're like,
nice.
Yeah, they're like, she is the bitch of YouTube. And I was like, okay. You know, I feel like that's me. Hi.
Then you can have a Birdman for a husband. Congratulations.
Yeah.
No, I babysit a Birdman. And I am a dragon. Cool. So the other question that I saw was, shoot, I forgot the name. I think it was Alex. And they were like, are you ladies going to do any more live streams that are not about the Grisha books?
Yes. And that was actually asked by Andy O'Connor. I saved that question because I really wanted to talk about that. But you go ahead.
Yeah, so we were kind of chatting about the possibility of this, and in doing so, where did it go? Oh, I found it. Haha.
Yes.
I picked this up yesterday. Ba-doom.
Yes.
So I was thinking, and we were kind of chatting in our little group chat, that maybe we could do our favorite books, and then each talk about our favorite books on our channel. So this is Kat's favorite book, or one of them, and then I have my favorite book, which is The Goose Girl, that I would force you guys to read. And then I don't know what Cindy's would be, but
you already read my favorite book. But I do like the idea of like we can take turns having live shows on our channels, and whoever's channel it's on, they get to pick the book that we all read. So like since the next book that we're reading is Radio Silence, we would host it on Cast channel. Like that's perfect because we're taking turns anyway. My book, I don't know, I would just choose whatever is like a book I've been meaning to read. And then we go over to you, Jordan, and then we read The Goose Girl, and then it kind of goes in from there. I don't think it has to be favorite books. It could just be like whatever book you think would be interesting to personally choose for a live show.
Yeah.
So it's like we're the dollar store version of Bookmarked.
Essentially.
Yeah, or Booksplosion, like a little bit of Bookmarked, a little bit of Booksplosion. I think we're
like the awkward cousin that you try not to invite to family gatherings, you know?
Yeah, like the no-name brand at the grocery store.
Yeah.
No name brand, literally, because we have no name.
It's so true. We don't have a name. Let's turn the questions onto the live chat. And to anyone who's watching this, if you have any suggestions for what name we should give to our book club / reoccurring live show, let us know because we still don't have a name.
Yeah. Also, everyone's like, are you making a book club? It's kind of a book club if we do what we do, which is, reading books that are chosen by one of us. So yeah, it's kind of basically a book club at that point. So and then we can have a little live chats, and then so we need a book club name.
People are saying dog-eared, salt shaker, salt squad.
I like I feel like dog-eared is a little too like on the nose copy of bookmarked. And like while I love you know, exploring the like brand or no name version of their brand name you know, live show, I feel like I don't know if I want to like be like that overtly I want to be our own thing, you know? But
it sounds like well, the comments seem like they're really leaning towards Salt.
yeah.
Oh, or Juice's mustache. Or Cole Sprouse fan club.
Ooh, wow, they really know what gets me hyped.
A quart of salt and I don't know.
Oh God, no, please. I refuse to have a quart of in this situation at all.
Well, maybe we can gather ideas and then compile like our favorite ones and then put them in a poll or something.
Yeah, like on Twitter.
Yeah. And I saw another comment related to having more live shows. Raven said, have a live show dedicated to the Netflix show when it comes out. And I think that would be kind of interesting. Like maybe we could do like a live show per episode or per like, I don't know, half, the first half or the second half.
Because yeah, it's Netflix, so I feel like it would drop because I don't think they're producing it with like a channel, so I think it would probably drop all at once. So we could probably we could split it up into sections, or I don't know, explore that when it comes around. I think that'd be good.
I think it's like 8 episodes, so we could like do a live show for the first 4 and then a live show for the last 4 or something.
Yeah.
BTS John Cook said for the book club name, I suggest 3 of Hose. That's funny.
I was saying the triumvirate, but 3 of Hose. That's pretty good.
Instead of Siege and Storm, Salt and Sadness.
Salt and Sadness.
I mean, that's accurate.
Sodium Cream.
Yeah. But okay, so it sounds like we will have a live show for Radio Silence, right? Right? Are you guys down?
Kat seems pumped, and it's on her channel. It's her pick. So
Shit. Oh no, I can't host things. Whatever. We'll figure that out when we get
there.
there.
Do it. And I would love it if it was like a read along too. I guess that's how book clubs work, right?
Exactly.
Like
you know what? I read Radio Silence this month, but I will read it again. I do not mind.
Yeah. I will be busy for like all of May though, because I'm doing Asian Readathon and I'm traveling, but I could read Radio Silence as like the first book of June. I could probably like finish it like first week of June and then I can meet up whenever after that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm a slow reader, so this will take me all of this month. Just kidding, maybe not. So yeah, no, I'm free whenever. Hit me up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I will plan on reading Radio Silence on the first week of June. I have it at my library, I think. So yay, I'm looking forward to reading it with you guys. And then I have to think about what book I would choose for my live show.
Yeah, you're next, so.
Yeah. But I'm also looking forward to reading Goose Girl too. Yeah, this is fun. Yeah. I don't know if this will be like a monthly thing or like a bi-monthly thing because I'm a very slow reader.
We just like whenever we get our shit together thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. And it also keeps the viewers on their toes.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, you'll never know when we're coming. We're like rolling in.
Find out.
We're like a darkling. We're like, surprise, bitch.
Exactly. You'll only find out when Cindy inevitably puts out one of those amazing trailers and blows up.
Oh man, I cannot make a trailer for every single live show. I could not do that for King Stars. But at the very least, I'll just make like, I don't know, design banners or whatever.
Yeah. I was joking. You're fine. We're putting all of our marketing on Sydney. Wow, Cindy.
Yeah.
No.
I'm down.
Sorry?
I'm down.
Okay, cool. So I think we should probably wrap this up because it's been over 2 hours now. Everyone's saying the Raven cycle, so I feel like we have to do that eventually.
Oh God.
But yeah, I'll look through all of the so
there's so many names. The Juicers, the Juiced Roost, the Inconsistents.
Yeah, there's some good ones. The inconsistency, yeah. Cool. Well, thank you all for showing up in the live stream and chatting, and I'm very excited to like rewatch and like just read what you guys are saying because I love doing that. And also thank you, Cindy and Kat, for coming on my channel and also talking about King of Scars and stuff. I had so much fun.
Thank you for having us. I really loved hearing like all the ways you would have rewritten King of Scars because it's so much more compelling and the kind of shit that I would want to read. So it's the kind of thing where like, I was literally thinking about this while you were like talking. I was like, damn, I could really tell that Jordan Harvey is a good writer because of like the way that you like think of how you would write stories. So when I finally get around to writing my novel, which hopefully is next year, I will definitely hit you up so you can destroy it. But also think about all the ways it could be written better.
It would be my honor.
For now, until you actually read it.
But yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'm excited for what the future holds for our little trio.
Yes, me too. I'm so excited that this is a reoccurring thing because it totally wasn't planned at all.
No.
Yeah, no.
You guys were gonna do a thing, and I was the annoying like little sister that was like, I want to do it
too. Well, I was literally the same thing where like Kat was like, I'm gonna do a Grisha read along, and I was like, are you doing live show? And then she was like, oh, I don't know. Do you want to be on it? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And then that's how it kind of snowballed into there.
Yeah, I was like, I'm reading them to you guys, and then I was like, I'm gonna like tune in, and then you guys were like, yeah, you should probably just be in it, and I was like, I'm not cool enough though.
No, lies and slander, enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how this group forms very naturally.
Yeah, I know, but I love you guys, so like, and I'm so glad that it's gonna stay this way.
Okay, this is getting gay, so we should.
Okay, I'll end it. Have a nice night, everyone, and bye.
Goodbye.